Looking for clarity and confidence when it comes to decision making for your business? You've come to the right place. You're now listening to the Atomic Business Coaching Podcast.
All right, Tom, episode 53. You ready?
Episode 53. That's awesome. We didn't celebrate the 1 year, did we? We didn't even call it out. We did 52 episodes and didn't even call it out as our 52nd week.
Yeah, it was a year. I did tell my children that. But here's the thing. I learned this a long time ago is, you have these milestones set in place and you get excited about them and you don't care when you achieve them. That's usually what happens. And the reason why most people don't care when they achieve this huge milestone, this huge goal that they set out for themselves is because all the work that they put in along the way, that's what was supposed to happen. You were supposed to get here. So it's not a surprise. It's not shocking. You're not excited. You're like, I did the work. This is what's supposed to happen. There's nothing exciting about it.
True that.
Yeah. So that's probably why we didn't care too much, because we knew what we were doing and we got there and we're like, okay, 52.
Well, now we are officially in year 2.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So today I would like to talk about a hot topic of, we got a lot of people in the beginning of the year that want to become millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
You and I have run a group. You've been a part of mine. And now we run a group called Project 2740. That group is how you can make $2,740 per day, which equates to $1 million per year. A lot of people want to become millionaires, Tom. And here's the thing. They only think about making the money. Like, I want to make $1 million, right? Isn't that what you hear? I want to make $1 million.
I want to break that threshold.
Well, that's not really what's important. Making the $1 million, while it's nice and it could do some great things for you, that's not the important part. So what we're going to talk about today is how you become the type of person that can make $1 million. Because once you get that skill set, then you can make $1 million over and over and over. Because you may get lucky. You may invent, something incredible and it sells $100 million and you own a percentage of a share and you make $1 million. Well, okay, great. You may... I knew a couple, it was my wife's boss at one point, scratched off a lotto ticket. They won $1 million. Okay, woohoo. It's like, all right, so you can get that once.
Right.
But the idea behind becoming the type of person who can make $1 million stems from a quote by Brian Tracy. And what he says is to make the first million is hard, but to make the second is inevitable. And that's the key, is if you can become this type of person, which Tom and I will talk about, if you can become the type of person that can make $1 million, then you can do it at any time, in any environment, economically, with any product or service. You become that type of person. All right, Tom. So why don't we kick it off with you, some introspective aspects from you.
Yeah, having participated in, your group, and now that we're doing it as part of Atomic Project 2740, it was really an incredible process to go through, right? Because we focus on the 4 things that you really have to think about when you are trying to develop yourself into the owner who can generate $1 million a year. And the goal is to take your time back in the process, right? That's what we always talk about, is we want to take back our time in the process. And, the thing that I took away from the group is really being able to identify what you really want for your business. Is this something that you really want? Do you really want to make $1 million? Or is it this thing that you're just dreaming of? And I think that's one of the most important things going into this topic is, do you have that desire? Is this the end all be all for you? Because what we saw in the group is some people realized, hell, I don't need to make $1 million. I'll be happy making, $300,000-$400,000. I'll be able to pay all my bills, have some FU money to do whatever I want with. And, that's really what it comes down to is do you have that desire to make $1 million? And I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah. So where does desire come from? That's probably what is, how you put it, it's kind of like socially dumped on everybody that to be a millionaire, right? And everybody knows now to be almost everybody in Long Island is a millionaire now, on paper, right? It's really not a difficult feat if you own a home, if you have a job, and if you pay your bills and you've done it for a decade plus. It's like, all right, you're worth $1 million. But that idea of being the millionaire comes with all of the rewards, right? And people think like, if I'm a millionaire, all my bills are paid. If I'm a millionaire, I have a nice home. If I'm a millionaire, I have nice vacations. If I'm a millionaire, I can take care of the people who I love. And that's what it comes down to, right? It's more of the emotional reward, the vision of what that life could be is why people aspire to that $1 million.
Right.
But you talked about why, right? Why do they really want to do it? And we had a gentleman who decided midway through, he's like, this is not what I want. One of the ways that they broke it down was first by the effort that would have to go in, and they're full of energy and effort. It wasn't like they didn't want to do this. They're like, well, what is the end? Why am I doing it? And if you can start calculating out the life that you want, if it doesn't need $1 million, then why are you doing this? Okay. So why don't you talk about that?
Yeah. So I think that's a good point. What do you really want from your whole business? What is the point of why you do this every single day? And that's what this person realized is, you know what? I don't need to do this. I can manage everything I want to do and do it on $400,000. And that desire, you saw from him, it wasn't that he lost the desire to be successful or to achieve. That wasn't the case. He was motivated to achieve what he wanted to achieve. And he wasn't succumbing to the social pressure of having to be a millionaire, or he wasn't succumbing to those things. He was really identifying it for himself and determining what life he wanted for him and his family, and what type of dad he wanted to be too for his children. And I think those are the key points is in developing the owner who's going to achieve $1 million. If you can put all those things and you still want the $1 million, then go after it. Then we'll give you all the tools and the skills and everything that you need to make that happen. But the most important question is, what is it that you want from this job, from this business that you've created, not a job for yourself. We don't want to fall into that. We want to be talking about the business, but what is it? Why are you in business? Are you in business for a lifestyle? Are you in business for another reason? And I think that's the first thing to clarify as you go into the idea of making $27.40 a day in revenue.
Yeah, I mean, most people, and that was nice for him, right? And it's okay. And he got to that point, and I'm not mad at him. I'm not happy for him, but it just is what it is.
Right.
What happens for the people who really say, no, I want to do this, is it comes down to an ego thing. They want to prove to themselves, I have the ability to achieve this. And in their mind, that is a benchmark of success, whether or not that gives them everything they want. Because listen, you can make $1 million and still be at a loss, right? It can cost you 1.1 to make $1 million and you're $100,000 loss.
Correct.
Okay, so and let's clarify, when you're making $1 million, it doesn't mean you're keeping it. Okay, everybody's got their hands out for that, whether that be the government or, your employees or your creditors or whatever else. There's always people out for that. So what most people usually come down to is they say, look, I want to prove that I can do that because if I can, that means this. And there's usually a dream beyond that. If I can achieve that, I can do all these other things. And that's what we really want to talk about is what does it take to become the type of person? Okay. What do you have to embody? What do you have to do to become the type of person that can generate that kind of revenue? So what are some of the personal things that you see, Tom? What are some of the mindsets that you see on that?
Well, I think there's a lot of mindset here, right? You have to have that growth mindset, number one, so you can constantly learn, take, and see everything as an opportunity. Because the second that you stop seeing things as an opportunity, you're going to miss opportunity and you're going to lose out on making more money or taking advantage of a situation. Number two, it really comes down to having the grit and the aggressive patience to achieve that. It takes a lot of work to get to that $1 million mark. I mean, we've all been working towards it and it takes time. And you have to be patient with it. You have to have a mindset that recognizes that to enjoy the journey, because if you don't enjoy the journey to getting there, when you get there, like we said before, is you don't achieve, it's not a big deal. You got there, you did the work, you did what you had to do. So this is just another day, right?
Well, let's go with the podcast. We started in the beginning, like we got to 52 and it wasn't this big celebratory thing.
Right.
And that's because you and I were not about the destination of a year. We were more about the journey of doing the thing. And there's a great quote that says, a man who loves to walk will go further than a man who loves the destination. And what that means is it's not about this end goal that you're trying to achieve. It's about the process of achieving it.
Correct.
Okay. And that, everyone says, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life and all that. But that's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
What I'm talking about is becoming the person that enjoys doing the thing that it takes to one day achieve this goal. Okay, because if you can consistently do those things over and over again, then guess what? The byproduct is you will actually achieve this goal. And this leads me to something that we really try to give a protocol to all of our new clients who come into our tactical advanced coaching, and it's called identity, action, result. And what this means is, we break it down very specifically with their priorities and other things. But in this instance, you have to identify with the type of person that can generate $1 million a year. And when you start to really embrace that identity and you say, okay, if I'm the type of person that's going to generate $1 million a year, well, you ask yourself one question. What does a person who generates $1 million a year do?
Right. What do they do?
Right. So if you identify with it, then you can start to think, okay, what does a person who generates $1 million a year do? Now, of course, there are coaches like me and Tom, or there are books you can go read or schools you can go to learn those exact things.
Mm-hmm.
But what I would challenge you in the beginning, if you have that tenacity to go out there and become that type of person, you probably have an inkling of what it takes. So you would ask yourself that question. You would identify with, I'm the type of person that generates $2,740 per day. What do I do today? And then whatever your answer is most likely what your actions need to be. Okay. These are your actions that you're going to take. Okay. If you take those actions consistently and constantly improving upon them and getting more efficient and effective with them, the outcome will be you'll generate $2,740 one day. Then the goal is, well, what does someone who generates $2,740 a day do to do it again tomorrow? Right? And then you start creating these actions.
Right.
But the purpose here is you have to become that before you became that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You have to say, okay, I'm going to be it right now. Okay. There was a thing an Instagram reel that we did recently. I was about people are trying to become something and you just have to be it.
Be it. Right.
Right. So you just have to be that person. You're not going to shout from the rooftops, I'm the type I'm a person who generates $1 million a year. No, you didn't do that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you act accordingly, and I don't mean fake it till you make it. If you act accordingly of what it takes to do that, what it takes to become that type of person, okay, then you can be it. And you can ask people like us. You can think to yourself what it is. You can look it up online. But all of that is really useless unless you do the thing that you've just understood you have to do. And then you have to do it again tomorrow and the next day and the day after that, and ongoing. And then that builds new problems that you have to tackle. But the whole purpose of this is that you have to embrace what you already know deep down inside it is going to take to be the type of person that can generate that revenue.
We're talking about what it's going to take, right? And we're talking about the process of doing it over and over each day. And it really comes down to forming a new habit around it, right? It's taking on the habit of a millionaire who you've witnessed or watched or whatever. Alex Hormozy always says that, I'm documenting the process because guys like Musk and Bezos didn't document their process. And he's trying to put it on paper so it's memorable so that we can replicate and we could all reach what they all have reached. And it really is, what are the habits that they really form? What are the habits that millionaires form every single day? How do they go about it? What does their day look like? Do they have a routine? Do they have a mindset ritual in the morning? Do they have an activity that they do every single day that encourages their mind to breathe and to think differently? What is it that they do? Because if you can formulate a habit and the habit becomes habitual, right? That's the whole point of the habit. Then you can achieve exactly what it is that we're setting out to do here and become that person who can make $1 million. And you want to know what I realized in the process of all of this is even if you don't make the $1 million, you will make more money regardless because you have formed new habits to get you to further from where you are to where you would like to be. And it's really about that habit formation and understanding that things are going to have to change and you have to let go of certain things. It takes, like we talk about in our book, it takes surrender. It's a letting go of the old habits and the old ways that aren't productive, that are keeping you where you are, and taking on the new habits so that you can propel yourself forward.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to 3 simple words.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline, process, repetition. That's it. That's all that it actually takes. So if you wanted to make $1 million, selling coffee cups. Okay. You want to make $1 million selling a coffee cup. What it takes is the discipline to go out there and make those attempts at selling them. And you'd have to build some kind of process around what am I going to do to sell these things? And then you'd have to wake up tomorrow morning and do it again, repeat it. That's all it really takes, right? It's discipline, process, repetition. One of my clients is a real estate agent, and the way he built himself up is he just went and knocked on doors. He was super disciplined to do it. He didn't want to do it, didn't enjoy doing it. Had to find ways to get himself up to go do it, but he did it, and he had a process to it. He would go here and do this and do that, and then he'd wake up in the morning and do it again. And he did that for years and years and became a millionaire. Okay, you could look at, you mentioned Musk, and you mentioned Bezos, and you're mentioning Hormozi, mentioning all these famous people who some of them we all looked at as an overnight success. Well, no, they had the discipline in the beginning. They had some kind of a process they were going to go through, and they just did it in repetition over and over and over and over and over and over again. Okay. The discipline part we've talked about many times in this. It's doing the things that you don't want to do, but doing them like you love them.
Yep.
Right. You don't have to be happy, but you have to do them like you love them. You have to look forward to it. You have to get into it. You have to do these things. But that's really discipline, process, and repetition is all it really takes. But you have to ask yourself, what's my process? Right. What's my process? And then how often am I going to repeat this? I'm working with a client right now. They want to bring on 15 new clients for their agency by the end of February. And we talked about, well, what's it going to take? And they were like, well, I'm going to have to make this many phone calls. Okay. In what time frame? And he's like, I didn't think about that. And so now we're looking at the time frame. And this time frame, I have to make this many calls, and then I have to do it again. How often? What's the frequency I have to repeat that? And he's like, holy shit.
It's a
lot more than I thought.
Right. But
but if you don't do anything and you just think about, like, I want to do this one day, and then nothing's going to happen, right?
And that's such an important point you're making there. It's just about action. If you don't take the action, you don't put in the effort, you don't work the process, you don't do the ritual, you don't repeat it, you don't achieve it. Stop. So many business owners get caught up in analysis paralysis, and they get stuck. And they're like, this is never going to happen. And they form these limiting beliefs that it's never going to happen. Just do it. Just go out there and do it. Like Adam said before, the discipline is the work that absolutely sucks, but you have to find a way to love it and do it so that you can get to where you want. But you still have to enjoy the process in the process of doing it.
It's not like enjoy the work, but enjoy that you're doing the process of the work, right? That's the thing. It's like you have to be like, okay, you build your own processes. It's like you can choose how you're going to do this, right? Like on Friday, I think it was Friday. On Friday, I spent 4 hours on sales calls.
Right.
Okay. I put my AirPods in. I sat in the first floor of my house, and there's this like track that I can go on because I can go from my hallway down to past the staircase, through the formal living room, through the dining room, through my kitchen room, past the family room, then back to the hallway. And I could just do that over and over again. And I don't do it on purpose. I just put my AirPods in, I hit dial, and I get on the phone. And I'm standing in one place. And all of a sudden, I find myself doing laps. And as I pass the kitchen, I pick up a cup of coffee and take a sip, and I'm doing laps. And when it gets really serious, I'll stop, and I'm focused, and I'm doing laps. That's my process. So I know, okay, if I put my AirPods in, okay, I got sneakers on, and I'm standing in that room, and I'm like, I got to make these calls. I already know what's going to happen. I don't think about it. I'm like, okay, we got to take 25 laps around this. It just happens. Because that's the process that I chose for myself. Whether my body naturally chose it or I one day in the past chose it, that's the way I do things.
Right.
And that's the process that I love parts of it. I don't like necessarily all of it, but when you put it all together, I enjoy it and it makes me happy. It's exhausting. I told my wife that night, I'm like, I've just talked for so long today. I can't talk anymore. Like I can't do any more things.
Right.
But that's my process. And I'm disciplined enough to know, like, all right, I have to take care of this. I'm going to do it. But there are aspects of it that I'm like, this is fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's not all of it, but there are pieces of it. And if I don't do some of it, I don't get those little pieces that I do love.
Correct. And that's the thing. You're going to have those things that you absolutely love. But what we're saying is that you got to follow a process. And identity action result is one of those processes, right? Identify with those people who are millionaires. Take the action that they take every single day. Find out what they do every single day and then do it. and then you'll get the result that you want to achieve. And it's simple. It's 3 steps. It's not even 3 steps. It's identify and act, and you'll get the result, right? It's only 2 steps to get what you want. And if you just take those 2 steps and you block out all the other noise and the nonsense that you're putting in your brain, or who you're comparing yourself to, or who you're listening to, identify with the one person, find out what they do, and then just go do it. And that's it. It's that simple.
You're not really identifying with the person. You are taking on that identity. What you're doing in this process, what we're saying, this IAR, identity, action, result. What you're doing in that is you are embodying that identity. Okay. You have now taken this identity. It is yours. I don't want you to think about somebody else, right? So you don't want to picture like, oh, what would Elon Musk do? And no, not that, because you're not Elon Musk. You're you.
Right.
And deep down inside, you have intellect. Okay. If you're starting a business, you have some kind of drive. Okay. You have some kind of passion to achieve something, whether that's money or prove to your father that you could do it, or decide that I can fire my boss, whatever it is. Okay. You have the ability to think and execute. So I want you to embrace and embody that identity and say, okay, I'm the type of person that whatever your thing is, if it's $27.40 a month, okay, which is what I'm sorry, $27.40 a day. Okay. If that's the thing, you have to say, okay, well, what would I do to generate $2,740 today? You already know the answer. You really already know the answer. You're just too scared shitless to do the action to get the result. Okay. And then what you do is, well, should I do it that way, or should I do it this way, or what would that person do? And then you go on Google, and then 5 hours later, you still have no answers, no activity, nothing happened, and you're sitting in the same spot you were. This is what it takes, okay? To do anything great, you have to take action over and over and over again. I mean, look at the greatest athletes, okay? There was a show on Netflix this year, Quarterback, and they were showing Patrick Mahomes. The guy is in the Super Bowl.
Again.
He's in the Super Bowl. But if you look at the actions he took outside of what his required work was, he did a lot of stuff on his own. He had his own trainer, his own activities, because he's like, this is what it takes for me to be that level of quarterback. Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, same kind of guys. Like Wayne Gretzky, all these people did that.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same as all those business icons you look at. Warren Buffett, Alex Hormozy, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs. They all did these same things. They all started as nobodies. They're the same as you.
Right.
There's no difference between them and you, except the actions that they put in along the way.
Right.
Okay. And it takes a decade to be an overnight success. I'll say it again. It takes a decade to be an overnight success. So you have to start with, okay, I'm embracing this identity. What would I do in order to achieve this thing that I've just identified with? Okay. To actually be that thing, I would do, and then just do it. I'll leave it off with this: is you're supposed to fail.
Amen.
You're supposed to fail when you take those actions. And then what happens is you get educated.
Right.
Okay. You figure out what worked, what didn't work, how to do things better. You go do some research and, okay, I tried it this way. And oh, wow, it actually goes that way. Okay. You reach out to coaches like Tom and I, you have mentors that you work with or anything. And now you have something to actually talk about instead of something to dream about.
Correct.
I don't want you to dream about things. I want you to say, this is what I did. This is what happened. And now how do I improve it? Or how do I do more of it because it works so well? And that's the key to this, is you can't just sit on the sidelines.
Nope. You got to be part of the game. You got to be in the game.
Correct.
And just throw your hat in.
It's just take action, man.
That's it. It's simple.
Action. Don't be so scared.
Action.
You're a very smart person, okay? No matter how dumb you are, if you're as dumb as me, you can still be very smart when you do your actions, okay? It's just taking more action, okay? And when you decide, I'm going to identify with this, and if it is, I want to become the type of person that can generate $1 million, because once I do, the second million's inevitable, then just go do that.
That's it.
Baby steps, one day at a time, one action at a time, and continuously do that. So the way that we work through that again, the last piece, and I've taken this from Tim Kennedy, who's an Army Ranger, special ops guy, UFC fighter, business owner. He's been on Joe Rogan a lot. Very unique human being. Is he's the one that I heard say that is you need to have discipline, process, and repetition. And he said, with discipline, process, repetition, you can solve any problem in the world. Anything.
It's very true.
So on that note, Tom, I think we can wrap this up, yeah?
Absolutely, man.
All right. I am Adam, and I work on the business.
I'm Tom. I work on the owner.
Together, we are Atomic Business Coaching.
And we're in the business of helping purple collar professionals.
You're never going to get that one right.
I know. I always stutter somewhere along the way. It's terrible.
See ya.